The most interesting thing, y'all, is that even if the criticism is not directed towards us specifically, just witnessing it happen to someone else is enough to stop us from doing that thing. If you hear someone else being criticized for that, right? Like if you hear a classmate saying, now she knows she too black to be wearing that loud lipstick, or he too black to be wearing that neon jersey, right? Even though the criticism and the critique was about somebody else, it reminds you of the potential of you being criticized as well. And so you might never wear loud lipstick or bright lipstick or a neon green jersey, not because you were criticized for it, but because you've seen other people be criticized for that thing. Welcome to another weekly live stream with Colorism Healing. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah L. Webb. This topic is all about confidence and my number one secret to building confidence. And it's dedicated to my fellow dark-skinned folks out there. So all the month of February for Black History Month as well as Valentine's Day, I've been focusing on the self-love aspect of colorism healing as part of my weekly live streams. And so I'm going to close out. Happy to celebrate this last day of Black History Month, although we are Black 365 around here. But for, the formal official month of Black History, I'm excited that my live stream falls on the last day, which is really exciting. So I do these every week, 7 p.m. Eastern time, and the topic is always colorism, but I zoom in on specific subtopics of colorism. I answer your questions, read your comments during the live stream. I love my interactive live, so be sure to engage if you feel called to do so. You can start by saying hello, let me know where you're watching from, where you're tuning in from, especially if this is your first time. And a couple of things to keep in mind is that I have been creating content on colorism for over a decade. So if you like my vibe, go check my archives. There's so much there. And a lot of times, if you're wondering if I've talked about something or if I've covered a topic, it might be on the website. It might be on the YouTube channel. I have, a writing contest every year. It is coming back this year. So there are anthologies there. I recently put out a children's coloring book. There's so much stuff out there that I've been creating, and I have to get better about telling people that I'm doing this stuff. I have to get better about communicating what I'm making and sharing. The live streams are saved on Instagram, YouTube, and in podcast format. So keep that in mind. If you can't stay for the whole time, you can always come back and catch the recording later. Or if you miss one, if you can't tune in for the week, then just know that you can come back and catch up with the conversation on your own time. And let's see, anything else I want to talk about? My ear infection is feeling better. I pretty much mostly recovered. If you saw last week's episode, you know that I was really in the throes of it. And being on the other side of that, my week has been so much better already. So I'm really grateful for that. I've been doing a lot of branding. So I want to shout out one Black brand that I recently patronized. I don't know if she's watching, but I just got my notebook from Nah, I'm Just Pretty, and a t-shirt. I haven't worn it yet, but I will be wearing it. So most of the people who follow me have heard of or are aware of Nah, I'm Just Pretty. They are a social enterprise company that focuses on colorism as well, seeking to raise awareness about colorism. So I wanted to really spotlight them and the work that they do. And speaking of that, My LinkedIn Live series is halfway through now, so if you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn, be sure to do that. My mini-series is on colorism in the workplace specifically, and I've been bringing on some really phenomenal guests, and that made me think of that because LaVonda White, the founder of Nah, I'm Just Pretty, as well as Sean Sibley at the account Color and Me, Celeste of the Slay Less podcast. They're going to be joining me to talk about interventions and preventions in terms of colorism in the workplace. So, like I was saying, so much stuff going on. So much stuff, all related to colorism. And I'm really excited. It's been my first year of doing it full time. And so all of my time and energy and attention gets to go into this. All right, we're 4 minutes in and I haven't said hello to anybody yet. I got to get started. Let's get on the welcome train, see who is joining us here. We have lots of folks. Let's see who's saying hello. We have Chema Bukarsa. Hi, with the purple hearts. Thank you. Sending love from Malila, Africa. Oh, that is beautiful. I always have at least one international person watching every week, which is super exciting. And I know it's like either super late or super early where you are. So I'm really grateful that you joined us. Indiana, Self Concepts. Welcome from Indiana. Hello from North Central Florida. This is Miss Antoinette Chanel. Welcome. Your work gives me courage. Oh, see, Miss Antoinette Chanel, I'm glad you said that because that's really going to be important once we get into the topic of self-confidence today. So we'll keep that in mind. Good evening, Queen. Hey, Mike Kimmin, how are you? Welcome. Good to see you. Omni76, good evening from the UK. What up, UK? I've been looking at Airbnbs in the UK, in London specifically. Like, I'm making plans to get to y'all. Hello, this is Adam Farat _OTT, JB1710. Hey, love, Issa Trey. Good to see you from Ottawa, Canada. This is, oh, okay, cool. Fearless Living Woman, hello. Hi from Brooklyn, Indigo and Flo. Good to see you on here. All right, folks. We got a good little crowd tonight. Thank y'all for vibing with me. These are like my jam sessions without the music. Although I could start adding music more often. So again, the topic is self-confidence, dedicated to my dark-skinned siblings, although all people need confidence and self-confidence. And I recognize and appreciate the unique struggle in the face of colorism of maintaining, building self-confidence for us dark-skinned folks. And I say siblings to be inclusive of gender, so brothers, sisters, siblings, however you identify. I want to say that there are a lot of people who talk about self-confidence from the perspective that they've always had it. And just for me, I don't know about other people, but for me, when I hear like this really influential person or this like celebrity or this role model who says, well, you know, I've always loved myself and I've always felt confident. I've never, you know, they make it seem as if they've never dealt with insecurities or struggled in any way. And I always say that's great for them, but it's not helpful to people who have struggled. It's for people who are struggling. And so there's the advice or the little feel-good, positive mantras of, well, you just have to believe yourself. You just have to be confident. You just have to believe in yourself. I'm like, yeah, we know that's the point, but how do we get there? How do we get to that point, right? And so I think about folks who don't understand the struggle and how that can create a disconnect in terms of helping other people to get to that point. And I think about when I taught English, when I started teaching English, I realized that when I struggled with grammar and punctuation in school, that helped me be a better teacher of grammar and punctuation because I didn't have a natural knack for it. And so I could therefore teach people who also did not have a natural knack for it. And so I think, you know, the things that I'm saying around confidence and self-esteem and self-love, you're hearing it from someone who's not just talking about it in theory, right? Like everything that I propose, suggest, recommend, talk about are things that I have applied and implemented in my personal life. They're part of my journey as well as being part of the research and my other readings and working with clients and, just talking to my audience and community over the years. It is, I've done the tests and the experiments, and I've tried the products on myself, right? But there are a lot of ways to approach confidence, and I think where I want to start is talking about challenges to confidence. Why is it so hard to build it and maintain it in the first place? And I think it boils down to two big categories, right? So every person's story is different, but I think there are two big categories. And the first one is previous judgment or criticism. So if you have in the past been harshly judged, harshly criticized, told that you're not good enough, made to feel less than, scolded, or made to feel like your performance wasn't good enough, it can damage your confidence going forward, and it can make you not want to try again. So, for example, if you wore something that you thought was really cute and somebody said, why you got that on? You don't look good in that. That's not cute. Then that can ruin your confidence, and you may never wear that thing again. You may throw it away, toss it out, donate it to charity, just because of that one harsh criticism. And it can make you afraid to try to wear certain colors again. It can make you afraid to wear crop tops or to wear a two-piece bathing suit or whatever the thing is. And so I think one of the common challenges that all people face to their confidence is remembering the criticism of the past and remembering how they were criticized and judged or laughed at in the past, and making them afraid to then step out and try again. And then the second challenge is fear of potential judgment, fear of potential criticism. And this can happen to anybody. So even if you have never been bullied, even if you were never talked down to in the past, most humans are aware of that as a possibility. And so it keeps us from trying. It keeps us from moving forward, from stepping out of our comfort zone or putting ourselves out there in various ways. But I think the most interesting thing, y'all, is that even if the criticism is not directed towards us specifically, and just witnessing it happen to someone else is enough to stop us from doing that thing. And so humans have evolved lots of ways of policing each other and lots of ways of policing ourselves. So I think I like the example of, being a dark-skinned person who wears bright colors, being a dark-skinned person who wears red lipstick or wears a bright yellow dress, right? And so if you hear someone else being criticized for that, right? Like if you hear a classmate saying, now she knows she too black to be wearing that loud lipstick, or he too black to be wearing that neon jersey, right? Even though the criticism and the critique was about somebody else, it reminds you of the potential of you being criticized as well. And so you might never wear loud lipstick or bright lipstick or a neon green jersey, not because you were criticized for it, but because you've seen other people be criticized for that thing. The classic example is hair. Okay, let's keep it a little real for y'all for a second, right? One of the main reasons we have so much fear around how we wear our hair, especially in its natural textures, is because how often have we heard people be teased, made fun of, judged, criticized, rejected, negated in so many ways for their hair sticking up, or for their hair being too nappy, or, oh, you need to do something with your hair, or, why you look like an African booty scratcher, or why your hair's sticking up like that, or being laughed at because your ponytail is sticking up. To this day in 2022, people still think it's make a mockery out of someone's ponytail if it sticks up, right? And so there's a lot of fear around people in terms of what their hair looks like. And so there are people, I'm not even making the argument about whether or not natural hair is difficult to manage, because if you know my old content, you know that that's been a conversation. But there are people who won't even try to explore what their natural hair looks like because of the fear of that judgment and that criticism and that ridicule and that judgment. And I know because it's a fear I had to overcome. Again, like I said, I didn't wake up without fear about wearing my natural hair. I didn't wake up without fear of doing whatever and being whatever. That's all stuff I had to work through myself. So I know it's real, okay? And so that the fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of being laughed at, like really is a big one. And so the secret, I'm going to start off with the secret. I'm not going to make you wait to the end to tell you my number one secret to being more confident. And it's based on an email newsletter that I wrote. I think it might have been a year ago. I don't remember the exact date. But my Thursday Thoughts email newsletter, which comes out once a month, plugging that, yes. The secret is that before confidence comes courage. So courage is the gateway to confidence. If you want to learn how to be more confident, if you want to build more confidence in your life, in yourself, and everything you do, you have to get comfortable exercising courage on a regular, consistent, if possible, daily basis. And I remember, like, for years, prior to starting Colorism Healing, making my New Year's resolution courage. I did that for at least 2 or 3 years in a row. I had like a word for the year, and multiple years in a row, my word was courage. I have to just be courageous. And so let me break that down. So now that you know the secret, let me kind of explain to you what I mean, why I think that's the secret and that sort of thing. Let me come in and check the comments. Ooh, I feel like I missed a lot of comments. Root and Remember, I like that screen name. Says, I immediately think of my family making comments all the time. Yep. And so especially if those are comments and judgments and criticism that happen often, that happen more than once, then you really start to internalize that into your subconscious, and it can shake your confidence for sure. Little Marielle says, my father used to tell me I stink because I hate to having shower. Aw. Issa Trey says, this reminds me of my grandma saying, what hasn't been said is sometimes just as important as what has been said. Ooh. It's funny because all of y'all are saying this reminds me of, this reminds me of, this reminds me of, like something in your personal experience that relates to that. And I think, again, we don't need to gaslight ourselves. And that's the power of all of us speaking and sharing our truth, is that we realize, oh, it's not just me. I'm not, delusional. This thing really does happen. Yes, criticism can be indirect, but have a direct negative impact on you. Absolutely. Blessed to be a blessing. 10. Black Knight 0626.2 says, our theme from United States Army, Paratrooper School, the key to courage is overcoming fear. Oh, very cool. I didn't know there was a military resonance there. So thank you for sharing that. Fearless living woman, face the criticism head on, not meeting people where they are, but exploring where you can go if you stepped out of the shadow of fear. Love it, love it. Love that. Courage is the gateway to confidence. With love, Leslie. So here's how I came to understand that. So one, I was doing a live stream. I was doing my Instagram lives. This was early in the Instagram live days. And someone asked me, like an old childhood friend asked me, how are you so confident? So it was a question similar to that. There was like, how are you so confident? Where do you get your confidence from? And what I realized is that what people have perceived in me, or what people have labeled in me as confidence, was really me being courageous. And so on the outside, to people who don't know or don't understand, it might look, a lot of things might look like confidence. I might have looked like a confident person doing these things and showing up in the world the way I was decided to show up. But on my side, behind the curtain, behind the scenes, I can attest that it was more often, far more often, me being courageous than me being confident. And years of exercising and intentionally, proactively exercising, practicing courage, eventually led to greater confidence, right? And so even now on this live stream, I'm a lot more confident doing my live streams tonight than I was when I first started back in 2020. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing on these live streams, right? And so with courage, you're able to try, you're able to start, you're able to begin, and you're able to practice. And in the email newsletter that I wrote when I first started exploring this idea, I talked about how confidence can actually be overrated, and we don't actually need to always be confident. In a very practical sense, I use the example of someone asking me to swim across Lake Pontchartrain. If you're not from Louisiana, Lake Pontchartrain is this big lake between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, Louisiana. It's just a huge lake. And if someone asked me to swim across Lake Pontchartrain, I ain't confident in that, fam. That's not me. I can't do it, okay? But a very real experience is that I decided to take swimming lessons as an adult when I was in grad school getting my PhD. So I was in my late 20s, early 30s, just a few years ago, really. And trying anything new as an adult that society says you should have learned when you were younger, whether it's learning how to drive, learning how to ride a bike, people are going to look at you like, why are you just now, learning this? So I was like, okay, but I want to learn. But I wasn't just making the decision to learn to swim as an adult. I was taking lessons at my university, at the University Rec Center. The pool was at the front of the rec center, at the entrance. The swimming pool was at the entrance of the rec center. All the college students, all the faculty, staff who were coming into the rec center walked by the pool. And here I am in a bathing suit, which I was also not comfortable wearing, or, wasn't used to wearing, I should say, and flailing in the water in front of strangers. Okay? It was not comfortable. I was not feeling super confident about doing that. Okay? But I realized that if I waited to feel confident, I would never do it. I would never achieve my goal. I would never have the thing I desire. And so one thing I'd like to encourage for all of you today is don't wait until you feel confident. Focus on practicing courage to try. Have the courage to start, have the courage to begin, and then eventually confidence will come as you get better. The more you exercise that courage, the better you get, and therefore the more confident you become. And so I still can't swim across Lake Pontchartrain, even though I took swimming lessons, but I got better. And I feel less awkward in the water, right? But not only do you have to have the courage to try, but you have to have the courage to keep trying, even when people are laughing at you. And I distinctly remember that people were actually laughing at me. I believe now, they could have been laughing at anything. Let's just say, benefit of the doubt, maybe somebody said a funny joke. They were looking at a meme on their phone and they thought it was really funny. But I feel like they were laughing at my really awkward attempts to swim. Okay. And yet I kept trying. I kept swimming, right? Just keep swimming, right? Like Dory in Finding Nemo. So I think that's context, right? For where I'm going in terms of the confidence to courage leap that you're making is one, if you wait until you feel confident, you're never going to get there, right? Confidence is not something you can think yourself into. You can't weight yourself into confidence. You can't hold yourself back into confidence. Confidence is only going to happen as you take action. And in order to take action, you have to practice courage. You have to be brave to take those first action steps. Now, you might be wondering, like, how is all this relating to colorism? Like, we're supposed to be talking about colorism here. It doesn't sound like it. But remember, colorism is not just about, if you go back and watch one of my lives from a few weeks ago, colorism doesn't just impact the way you feel about your looks or your aesthetics. Colorism can impact you in terms of your belief in your ability to succeed. Colorism can impact your overall self-worth and your overall vision for your life, right? And so it definitely applies there as well. But when it comes to something like your physical appearance, I think, one, getting clear on what you want to be more confident about. And so I do like the example of, like, let's say wearing natural hair or wearing red lipstick or wearing a bright yellow dress or taking a selfie and posting it online, right? All of these things that have to do with, feeling confident about your appearance, the way you look. You can exercise courage in the tiniest ways, right? So a really practical way to approach this is that if you want to have the confidence to wear your natural hair, or if you want the confidence to wear red lipstick, find the tiniest way to exercise courage for that thing or towards that thing, right? And so if you're trying to wear bright colors, for example, and you're not really confident about how they look on your dark skin, you can start by just trying on some brightly colored clothes, right? Or even going more simple than that, just looking at other dark-skinned people in bright colors, looking at other dark-skinned people wearing red or yellow, right? And kind of retraining your mind to say, okay, I might be building up the courage to try this. And then literally just try on a yellow shirt. Try on some red lipstick. You could take it off after 30 seconds, right? But that first act of courage is important. And then follow it up with another act of courage. Because again, you have to have the courage to keep showing up in public, keep showing up even when you get the criticism, even when people say the things you feared they would say. Because again, trust me, like I've had people yell at me from the third-story balconies to criticize me and pass judgment on me. I'm just walking home from class and people, bullying me from the balcony, just yelling at me from the balcony. I'm just minding my own business. Complete strangers, right? So I know it's not easy. That's why it takes courage. But the first steps in terms of exercising that courage are really stepping stones. And so it's a small, tiny act of courage today. And then a year from now, you're wearing a lime green dress with hot pink lipstick on national news and talking to 1 million people, right? All because, on February 28th in 2022, you dared to try on your sister's yellow necklace for a quick second, just to see how it feels. Let me see what you all are commenting on before I continue. Lots of comments came through from what I saw. Not too many. Gators galore. As a South Floridian, we don't swim in lakes, so zero confidence there too. Right. Sometimes being overconfident is a thing. Like you should be scared. You should be scared to swim in a lake full of gators. Unless you're like one of those like swamp people, like those reality show people who like wrestle snakes and gators in the wild or whatever. Says, oh, you mean because of swimming confidence? I'm thinking survival odds. Sorry. No, it definitely still applies, Issa Trey. Adam Farrat OTT says, oh, I love the courage. Courage builds skill. Criticism tests our skills. And when you gain a better understanding of who you are versus who you are not, confidence reinforces who you are to self. Hey, I see some familiar names coming through. Welcome, y'all. Welcome. Adam Farad says, I have to head out, but this has been amazing. Whenever I engage with your content, I get the personal benefit of it. And it helps me as a social worker when working with Black service users. All right. That's good to know. All right. Dropped Jim. Hey, good to see you. This is such a good combo. Thank you. I needed to hear this message today. Dropped Jim. That makes it all worth it. Because really, I'm always like, I hope this is helping someone. So if it only helps Dropped Jim, it is worth it. But my hope is that it is helping other folks as well. So let's see. Let me make sure I'm touching on my points. Yeah, so I think I have it broken down into 4 steps. So again, the first thing is to get clear about what you want to be more confident about and get specific too. So I think in order to actually take action on something, it helps if you're really specific. So if you say, for example, I'm not confident about how I look, it's hard to take action on that. But if you say, oh, I'm not confident about how I look in red, I'm not confident about wearing red, then you have an actual action that you can take, something you can do. Or if you say, I'm not confident wearing sleeveless tops, right? I'm not confident showing my arms or showing a lot of skin. Not for modesty reasons, but because of like skin tone reasons or that sort of thing, then you can actually tie a courageous action to that form of confidence. And then the second step is to get clear about whether it's something you actually should be confident about, right? So going back to Issa Trey's example, you're good. If you're not confident swimming in a lake full of alligators, you are good to not be confident about that, right? But you can also ask yourself, right? Have I done the bare minimum? And so let's say you do want to gain confidence as a swimmer and you're like, oh, I want to become a swimmer, but I'm just not confident, right? So ask yourself, well, have I practiced? Have I signed up for swimming classes? Have I, joined a membership so I have regular access to a swimming pool? And if the answer is no, if you haven't done those things, well, then it makes sense that you're not confident yet, right? Because again, confidence comes as you practice. Confidence comes as you do these things. And then the third step is to start small. You can start big if you want to. Let me say that now. If you're ready to leap, if you're ready to jump in that lake and have a lifeguard nearby, have a life jacket on, I'm just saying. Start as big or as small as you want to with your first courageous action. And then again, that fourth step, which is so important, right? And again, I have been there. Like, I wish I could convey to y'all the feelings I used to feel, like, especially during my college days. Like, yeah, I was afraid they would laugh at me, and they laughed at me, and I went back again the next day, right? Like, that's the follow through part that's going to get you to courage. If you get you to confidence, right? If you try to be courageous once and people laugh at you and you're like, see, I knew it. They're laughing at me. I can't do it anymore. Then you're not going to get to the confidence. You're sabotaging your opportunity to feel confident. And so that's why it takes courage, because people do laugh. That's why it's such a fearful thing, because people do criticize, because people will judge, because people will critique, because people will be passive aggressive and make sideways, backhanded, quote unquote, compliments. All those things are likely to happen. And that's precisely why these things take courage. And that's why so many people have chosen in the past not to do them, right? And I'll also say this too. I'm not saying you have to have the courage to do things just for the sake of doing them, right? Like, is it an actual goal that you have? Is this an authentic goal that you really want to achieve? If the answer is yes, it's worth the risk of being criticized. It's worth the risk of being laughed at. It's worth the risk of being judged, right? So like, I don't ever want to swim across Lake Pontchartrain. So for me, it's not worth the effort and the risk of taking more swimming lessons. Like, that's not worth my time, because becoming an Olympic level swimmer is not a real goal that I have. But if you have a real goal to be able to wear your favorite colors and be happy in them and to feel confident in them, then it's worth the effort, it's worth the energy, it's worth the practice of courage. And I keep using the word exercise courage, and I keep using the word practice courage, because that's what it is. If your goal, for example, is to speak in public, like when I was doing my Instagram live, I think the question came up because this person saw me, talking to people on the internet. Anybody could be watching, and anybody technically could hop in the comments and criticize me or laugh at me or say, oh, Dr. Webb doesn't know what she's talking about, or, these live streams are so boring, or, you're not saying anything new, all the criticisms, right? And yet these lies are important to me precisely because of what Dropped Jim said in the comments. And so for me, the comment from Dropped Jim that says, this is such a good convo, thank you, I needed to hear this message today, that's why it's worth the risk for me of being judged by other people. That's why for me it's worth the risk of having other people laugh at me or criticize my work in some way. And I talked about this before too, in terms of how do you overcome negative opinions in order to love yourself and accept yourself. When the amount to which you love something outweighs your fear of the criticism, you will have that tipping point for yourself, that you'll cross that threshold, right? When there's something, or the goal that you have is so inspiring and so motivating for you, and you love the possibility of what you could achieve or attain or accomplish, outweighs the pain of being criticized, outweighs the pain of being rejected, then that helps you push past the fear. Not that it'll completely disappear, and not that these things won't continue to phase you in some way, but they don't win, right? It's who has the highest score at the end of the day. It's not that the losing team didn't score any points, they just didn't score as much as the winning team. And so my reflection for you all today is to try this courage to confidence strategy. First, think of something you want to be more confident about. Maybe you want to be more confident about wearing your natural hair out more often. Maybe you want to be more confident about expressing your opinions and desires to your partner. Maybe you want to feel more confident about asking your boss for time off, or asking for the raise, or applying for promotions, or going out on casting calls if you're an actress. Anything in life that you want to feel more confident about. Name it for yourself. And a lot of times that is the first courageous step. As I'm saying that, like, that really resonates with me personally. Like, sometimes the first courageous step is simply admitting that you want something. Is simply admitting that you want or desire a particular outcome or lifestyle, and that you in the past have kept yourself from even trying. So you can do that like this week. And if you do it this week, leave a comment on this video and let me know how it went for you. And then the second thing is to be specific about it and identify just the tiniest action, the tiniest act of courage that you can take Whether, again, like I said, depending on where you're starting from, depending on where you're starting line from, that tiniest act of courage could just be leaving a comment saying like, you know what, Dr. Webb, I would like to be more confident about wearing my natural hair. I would like to be more confident about wearing short sleeves or wearing shorts or wearing red lipstick. And just saying like, I want to do that thing and I've been scared to do it. Like that could be your first courageous step. And then the next courageous step could be you just going into the space. If it's wearing red lipstick, just go look at red lipstick and be like, oh, okay, I've tried it on my hand a little bit. Not ready to put it on my actual lips yet, but I've, tried a few samples on my hand. I don't know if they're doing that in COVID-friendly samples, if they exist. I'm trying to think of examples that might suit folks who are not like into lipstick. What was my other example? Swimming, speaking. You get the point. I'm not gonna harp on it too much because I think the message is clear. So go ahead, name the thing that you desire to have more confidence about, and then identify your first courageous action. And then my affirmation for you all, let me see if I have any other comments or questions. Speaking of laughter and criticism, I feel like we reserve a special amount for dark-skinned women. People go out of their way to embarrass Black women. Yeah. I don't know if you were on the live yet when I was talking about how I was walking home from class one day and this group of people yelled at me from their third-story balcony, and they were hiding behind the curtain. And I was like, so they said something, and I stepped back and I said, "What you said?" And then they like hid behind the curtain. I mean, like, how cowardly is that? Like that. Come on now. You have the gall to say something from the third-story balcony. So even if I wanted to throw hands, I couldn't. You up there in your balcony to make sure that, you're protected. And then you're not even showing your face. I know I'm going off on a slight tangent here. You're not even like bold enough to show your face. But yeah, that was an example, and it's happened so many times. And even thinking about, how a dark-skinned Black woman or girl will just be minding her business, and out of the blue, a guy will say, I don't like dark-skinned girls. I only like light-skinned girls. And I'm like, nobody asked you. Nobody asked you. Like, where did that come from? But again, just like in the other scenario with these like fools on their balcony, it's all a manifestation of their inner turmoil. I know that now. Like now I know that it's a manifestation of their actual lack of self-confidence and their low self-esteem, all that stuff that causes people or leads people to go out of their way to try to dehumanize and to try to shame dark-skinned Black women in particular. So many instances. I could talk. Let me put it in the book. Let me do that. Let me just put it in the book. Just put it all in the memoir. But yeah. So my affirmation for you all as I leave you here today with your courage to confidence strategy. One, I just want to say, focus on courage. Focus on the courage. I exercise the courage to start. I can find the strength to try. I can be brave enough to begin. And, reach back out to me a year from now, 2 years from now, after you have intentionally focused on being more courageous, and let me know if it has led to you also being more confident. I suspect that it will, but the more data we have on that, the better. All right, folks, I think I did pretty good on time today. Teach for the culture. Welcome, and thank you for the hearts. All right, I'll see y'all next week. I don't know what I'm talking about next week. I do my monthly topic planning the first week of every month. So I haven't set out my themes or topics for the month, but I know I said I wanted the first quarter to be on the individual manifestations of colorism. So I think I'm going to step back into looking at the problematic side of colorism. It's been really pleasant basking in the self-love, self-confidence, self-worth realms. But I want to also talk about things like how do biases develop, right? So when people talk about, oh, I just have a preference, I want to do some analysis on quote unquote preferences and where that comes from and how we can reprogram the programming and that sort of thing. So I think that'll be what March is, but we'll see. I'll let you know for sure. Saint Comey says the documentary of Tina Knows. I didn't know she had a documentary out there. Thank you, Omni76, for watching. Good to see you. All right, folks. I hope you enjoy. I hope you got something out of it, and I hope you join me next week. Take care. Mwah.